Hello, Malcolm here, and welcome to the Sunday Sample for Corporate Worship Matters, and today it's episode 115, and we're talking about the year to come, the year ahead, 2020 in this case. This is my final recording for 2019, looking into the future for 2020. And today we're going to be talking about how we think ahead, how we think about our hopes for 2020, for the year ahead. And even if you're watching or listening to this at a different time, that's okay. I think the principles will apply. Do you have a big hope for your corporate worship for the year ahead? What is your big hope? When you think about the year ahead, how do you see your corporate worship and your congregation developing? Developing in a way that fits with what you hope. How do you see it? What do you see? What do you imagine that to be like? Now, you and I can't predict what the future is going to be like exactly. We can't predict all of God's ways. God, if anything, is predictably unpredictable. But nonetheless, we should be having some hopes for the future. As someone said, if you aim for nothing, you're sure to hit it. So let's not aim at nothing, but let's have some hopes for 2020, for the year ahead. Now, you may have noticed I've not asked for your goals for 2020. Nothing wrong with goals, I believe in them. But I like the word hopes. The hopes is broader, more open, perhaps more open to God moving. I don't know exactly where we should be 12 months from now. Don't like the word should anyway. But I like the word hopes, and I have hopes for where we'll be in 2020 with the corporate worship I'm involved in Thames Valley and in Watford. For example, in Thames Valley, we're beginning to bring in more and more younger people to help lead the worship. Gene has recently started playing the guitar on a Friday night. We've got a chap, Andy, who's a teenager who we're planning to bring into the worship on Friday nights and then gradually bring them into the Sunday services more and more, not only in South Bucks where Gene is, but also perhaps for the entire Thames Valley congregation, and maybe Andy will as well. And then so those are some of my hopes. It's not so much a goal as a hope that they and other younger people will be involved more in the worship. So that's something as an example. But let's talk a bit about how we figure out what our hopes are. So I have three things for us to think about for 2020. Firstly, an imagination exercise. In fact, most of this really is about imagination. But firstly, imagine this. Imagine that your leading of your local corporate worship is the most effective in 2020 that it's ever been. It's as effective as you could hope it could be. That the corporate worship is as meaningful and as moving and as inspiring and as God connecting as you would hope it could possibly be. So imagine that. Now, as you imagine it, what does it feel like? What does it feel like when that is happening? What are you noticing that's going on? What's going on in you? What's going on in your team? What's going on in the congregation? Imagine it. What is it like? You might not be able to do this right now, but take some time to do this exercise. And then as you're imagining that, you're beginning to see what's different in 2020 compared to 2019. What's different in this future realized hope scenario as opposed to where you have been. Doesn't mean where you've been is bad or anything, but just you're moving towards these better hopes for the future. And take some time to imagine that and then write down what you see, what you notice, what you can draw out of that that's useful for you. So that's the first thing. Then that's your imagined best situation for next year. Then let's bring it back to the first worship situation for 2020. So for me, on a Sunday, that's going to be in Thames Valley on Sunday the 5th of January. And we'll be together at the Wokingham venue. And I need to be thinking about what is that going to be like? What's going to be going on there that will fit with those best hopes and be a little bit of an improvement from 2019. What's perhaps one thing that will be in that service that'll evidence for me that we're progressing in the direction of that great hope? If that great hope isn't all going to be there in the 5th of January, but we're going to be moving in that direction, then what's one thing that would show me we're on the right path, we're on the right trajectory, we're going towards that best hope? What would be one thing, even one small thing, that would show that? That is something for me to think about for the 5th of January, and that is something for you to think about for your first service for 2020, whenever that will be. And then to think back from there, so we've gone from our best hope to one thing that would indicate we're going in that direction. Then I need to be thinking about, now in order for that to be the case on the 5th of January, what's one thing I can do in the planning that will make that more likely than not to occur? So we go from best hopes to the next service and noticing one thing to what is one practical thing I can do to try and ensure that that will be the case. How about trying that for your next worship time, planning your first time after you've listened to this recording at least? What would that be like? And then let's see if that progresses, the best way we can make that progress all through the year ahead. So my big question for you today is, what is your main hope for your corporate worship in 2020? And if you wouldn't mind, could you leave that somewhere where we can all hear or see the record, wherever you hear or see the recording, can you leave your comment there so that we can all see it and learn from each other? Because we learn best when we're learning in community. I'd love to know what you think about that. If you know anybody who might benefit from this link, then please pass it on. If you haven't already done so, hit the notification button, the subscribe button, and if you're listening to the podcast, please just type out a quick review as a Christmas present for yours truly. I'd appreciate it.